So lead generation isn't that difficult, but a lot of people get it wrong. There's 3 easy ways as a business that you can get more revenue in your pipeline really easily. If you want to be seen by your target audience, you have to be noisy. You've got to be noisier than your competitor. There's no point being the best company in the world if nobody knows about you. Well, hello and a very, very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube that we've just added to the channel live. My name is Jonathan Finch. I am the Strategy Director at the almighty Big Presence, and a huge, huge warm welcome. Today, I've got some incredible guests with me. The whole Big Presence team are going to be joining me. Well, not all of the team, but most of the team are going to be here today to help you guys recession-proof your lead generation. Now, I'm going to give you a bit more of an overview as to what we are going to be talking about today. But before I do, if you are tuning in with us today, just on the comments, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's on Facebook, please can you drop on there what your biggest challenge is at the moment when it comes to lead generation. So if you're in sales, if you're in business development, or if you're a business owner, what is the biggest thing you're concerned about, or what is the biggest challenge you're having at the moment when it comes to lead gen? Also put your name in there and also where you are tuning in from. Last time we had people tuning in from all over the world, so really good to see where viewers are coming from. So without further ado, a little bit more information about what we are going to be talking about today. At Big Presence, we help organizations generate leads. We help them generate inquiries. We help them generate meetings. So one of the questions that we've been asked over the last few months from clients, as recession's getting whinged about in the news and everything, what can we do to make sure that 2023, we get out of the traps, we've got everything that we need to in place to hit the ground running and start generating more leads and inquiries. So we've got a brilliant session for you today. Myself and the team have really put a lot of effort into this. We're going to be breaking down into some really simple terms, the things that you guys can do to make sure that you're generating some leads and inquiries. So first of all, I am going to introduce my guests that we have on today. So Danny, I'm going to start with you. Danny Stapleton, a very warm welcome to Big Presence Live. You all right?
Thank you very much. I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. Danny, do you want to tell everybody who you are and what you do for our clients at Big Presence?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Danny. I'm one of the campaign managers here at Big Presence. I look after mostly the automation side of things on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is where I live. I love the automations, cadences, campaigns, generating leads through LinkedIn is sort of where I'm happy.
Fantastic. If you guys have any questions today about how to generate leads through LinkedIn, drop them onto the chat and we'll get Danny to answer those as we are going through. So my next guest, the almighty Kaylin Mayer, tuning in from all the way over in the almighty South Africa. Kaylin, do you want to explain who you are and what you do at the almighty Big Presence?
Thanks for having me, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. Kaylin here. I'm another one of the campaign managers at Big Presence. I also deal with LinkedIn lead generation, but also specialize on the email side and specifically on creating engaging copy.
Beautiful, beautiful. Kaylin makes all of our campaigns look very pretty and make sure that they actually get some attention. Brilliant. So our final guest of the day, the almighty Mr. Andy Coles. How are we, Andy?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Do you want to explain who you are and what you do at Big Presence for our clients?
Absolutely. My name's Andy. I'm Director of Campaigns at Big Presence, and I get to do all the real good fun stuff across the business. So I get to look after the data mapping, customer journey planning, I look after CRM implementation, and then on the back of that, we look at automation, and then I get a great oversight on campaign planning and where we can start automating these tasks for our clients to make things a lot easier, make sure everything runs really smooth.
So just to break that down, Andy does all of the intelligent stuff behind the scenes to make sure everything actually works. But guys, big thank you for jumping on with us today. I know you're all incredibly busy in the run up to December, so big thank you for taking some time out to jump on with us today. Now, without further ado, I am going to bring up a little bit more around what we're going to be doing today. So as I mentioned before, you might be in this position. If you tune in today, you probably are, that you're looking for more ways to generate leads and generate inquiries. Now, one of the first things that I want to just quickly show you, this is something that if you tuned in on our last live, we are giving away absolutely free. It is our present to you guys within the sector, but it's something that's very, very important. It is our lead generation calculator. Andy, do you just want to give everyone a bit of an overview as to why the lead gen calculator is important as a starting point if you're going to try and generate more leads and more inquiries?
Absolutely. Everybody out there, every single business has data flowing through it at any time. This is a tool to help you harness that data to recognize where you want to be next year, but also where's the gap between what you would actually bring in naturally and what you need to achieve additionally to hit your revenue and growth targets for the next year. So we'll be looking at sort of the average order value of the clients that you're bringing at the moment, how many inquiries you're bringing at the moment, what your conversion rate is across either whether it's yourself or your team. And that will feed out then to you. It's like what that gap is. How many additional leads and inquiries do you need to bring into your inbox to get you to hit your target for next year?
And Andy, just going into that in a little bit more depth, I mean, everything that we do at Big Presence is massively data driven. And I know that you head up a lot of that side. Why is data so important when it comes to lead generation? And why do a lot of organizations miss out on that?
Largely it's because, I'll just say one thing, Jonathan. It's like one of my old operations director came to me and he said, Andy, if you ever want to come to me and you're trying to argue a case or you want to make a decision, bring the data and nobody can argue with you. By harnessing the data, we know what's worked previously, what's going to work in the future, and it's a way that we can get our best results for both our clients and then for businesses as a whole.
Completely agree with that. I think the biggest thing that we see is a lot of guesswork when it comes to lead generation. We'll go and start working with a client or we'll go and start talking to them and we'll go, so where do your best leads come from? We're not sure. I'm guessing that comes back to tracking and looking at the CRM side of things. But yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that overview, Andy, on that. Guys, if you are just tuning in, again, this is the lead generation calculator. Get it downloaded. There should be a link coming through on the comments any second on LinkedIn, or if you're using your phone, click onto the bit.ly link that's on there or the QR code that's on there. Thank you, Andy. Andy's just put that on for us. But click on that. That is our gift to you guys. Please use it wisely. So without further ado, I'm going to jump on and we're going to get started. Now, the first rule of lead gen, and this might seem like a very, very obvious one, but it's one that we see quite a lot of the time that people get wrong, is that they don't have a consistent and also scalable process of generating leads and generating inquiries. So I'm just going to jump over to a slide here. You can see on here, I've put together two different strategies, one section that are scalable, that you can infinitely grow, that you can keep getting more results out of as a business relatively simply, and then others that you can't. Now, if you're tuning in, just on the comments, I can see things coming through on Facebook and on YouTube on there. If you're on LinkedIn, put in the comments on the feed, where do you spend most of your time at the moment? Is it on the email prospecting, LinkedIn prospecting side, or are you more doing referrals, organic leads, networking, attending events? Just put down there where you're spending most of your time. Now, as a small business owner, I mean, when we very first started up, we relied on a lot of the strategies on the right-hand side, referrals, organic leads, networking, attending events, all very good ways to get business in. But one of the biggest reasons that they aren't easily scalable is you've only got a certain amount of time in a day. Now, if you like I was when we very first started at Big Presence, you're trying to do your lead generation, you're trying to do your sales, you're trying to do your finance, you're trying to do your marketing, you're also trying to attend some events, you're also trying to deliver the product that you've promised. And all of these things are very challenging to do in that way, but also to automate. Automation, I know Andy's probably diving to talking on this, and we will in a second, but automation is absolutely key in parts of your lead gen process. And I say parts of it because not all of it. We still need that personalized approach. But what we also want to make sure is that if something doesn't have to be done physically by a person sat there, we are automating it and we're making sure that something else is doing it for us, because we can scale very, very quickly there. Now, I've worked in 2 different businesses a little while ago. One of those businesses we're going to call Business A, and one of them we are going to call Business B. Now, in Business A, they spent a lot of their time around their brand building stuff. This is something that we've talked about before, so if you tune in again, don't worry, the whole presentation isn't exactly the same as this. But the brand building side of things is very, very important. If you look at big brands, Coca-Cola, Apple, they spend millions of pounds every single day broadcasting their products and broadcasting their service. The challenge is, as a smaller business owner, you can very easily burn through budget by not focusing on B. So B is more of your outbound campaigns, going out to the market, specific people in that market, and seeing if they want to work with you. Now, as you can see, all the way going down there on B, there's lots of different ideas and things you can do. Take a screenshot if you want, or the video will be loaded up afterwards onto LinkedIn or onto YouTube, so you can jump onto it there and rewatch it if you want. But have a think about where you're spending your time as a business owner, because I've fallen into this trap many times before, and I've been doing a lot of branding and work on the branding rather than focusing on lead generation. Branding should always push into lead generation, but my background's in sales, as probably quite a few of you know. I'm very much focused on getting leads and inquiries in for our business. So again, have a look at that, see where you spend your time. I am going to be diving through some of these bits very quickly, guys, because we've got a lot of stuff to go through today. By the end of the session, I want all of you to have as much information as possible to be able to put together a cadence or a campaign that you can actually deliver yourself. Now, Danny, I'm just going to jump to you on this one, if that's okay, because under the lead generation side, if any small business owners are watching at the moment and thinking, how can I very simply generate more leads? Which one on there would you say is the easiest for somebody to set up and run with straight away, that they can start generating some leads inquiries for themselves?
I think creating campaigns, nice and easy at the top. Get something out there. You're not going to be able to get it out to everyone, but the people you can get it to, it's going to be really important that they see something.
And Danny, what do you think the reason is that when most organizations decide they're going to set up a campaign or something, or a small business owner sets up one, what's the biggest reason that would fail as a campaign rather than getting a number of leads and inquiries and succeeding?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to overthink something. I think we found, and I'm sure you'll touch on this with Kaylin with the copy, is that simplicity is better. So if we're looking at building really complicated cadences and automations, and it works, but you're better off letting it just come true from the company and letting your tone of voice shine through rather than trying to overcomplicate things.
Yeah, very true. I think some of the most complex cadences and campaigns that we've built have actually started with a very simple one to start with, and then we've built them out. So if any of you guys are thinking of setting up a campaign, it doesn't have to look like the Matrix when you set it up. You'll get some data, you'll get some information back if you're tracking your stats as to what is working, then that can dictate for you what's going to work best next. But yeah, brilliant answer there, Danny. Thank you for that. So in the most, the best and most high efficiency businesses that I've worked in from a lead generation perspective, they have a very good alignment of both. Brand is there to warm the sector up, let everybody know what you're about, your values and what you're doing. But then at the same time, they have the lead generation arms, and the lead generation arms are designed to be there to reach out to your target audience and ask them, do you want a meeting? Do you want to have a conversation with us? This is what we can do for you. Now, I think a lot of people overcomplicate this and worry too much that it's too salesy to be going out and asking for meetings. Now, Kaylin, I'm going to come to you on this one because I know that you've done a campaign this month that has done really well on this. What do you think the trick is when you're going out with that call to action to ask somebody to be jumping on and to be working with you? Oh, Kaylin, you just muted there. You might just want to, sorry, I think you just muted.
Apologies.
Yeah, perfect.
I had my dog trying to get in the room. So when it comes to call to actions, it needs to be top of mind. So when somebody is reading through, whether it's a LinkedIn cadence or whether it's an email campaign, you can include as much content as you want, but at the end of the day, you need to get to your end goal, and that is to have a meeting. So you want to have a meeting, you want to have a video chat. If you're lucky, have a cup of coffee And if you aren't immediately saying to people, if there's no call to action to say, listen, would you like to meet up? Is this of interest? Can we have a coffee? Just giving people a brochure and then not asking them to do anything with it is one of the biggest mistakes you can make in creating content on email, LinkedIn, or whatever else you want to do.
Because I know you've seen that personally when we've been reviewing campaigns that clients have been doing, and we feel that we need to put this huge block of text in there about this is who we are, this is what we do, this is how we go about things. And it's this essay to start with then a very small call to action at the bottom. And are you saying that needs reversing or the copy needs taken out completely?
So I made a mistake when I first started out in the copywriting game. It was thinking that people wanted to hear about our business, for example. Our business, what we do. That's not what the person wants to hear. They want to hear about how you can solve their problems. Yeah. If you can do that in an extremely short message, the shorter the better, the punchier the better. Provide a solution to their problem. Ask them if they'd like to meet. Keep it simple and sweet. So I would say remove the marketing content completely. If you can describe what you do in 1 or 2 sentences, that's ideal.
Fantastic. And again, I think just to expand on that, a lot of organizations talk about what they're going to do for the client rather than the outcome of that. A really easy way to see if you've got some effective copy there. Now, this isn't the oracle of everything copy, but it is a really good tip that you can use. Have a look at when you've written some copy that you're going to send to someone asking for a meeting and see how many times you've used the words I, we, or me. I'd like to have a conversation with you. This is what we do as an organization. We, again, if you'd like to have a meeting with me, all of those things are turn-offs for clients because you're talking about yourself. If you can talk to them about their challenges and about their problems, so you want to be switching that around to be talking about them rather than talking about you, you will get so much better responses from your campaigns and from your cadences. So let's have a bit of a look about how we can actually put together a strategy that we can use for lead generation when we're going out to organizations. Now, the very first thing you need to think of, and this is taking it back a little bit of a step from lead gen and from marketing, but you need to work out what your competitive advantage is within the sector. And I'm going to run you through. You may have seen this before. It's something that we've talked about this. This talks a lot about pull, but it's something very, very useful. So 2 restaurants open up on the exact same day in the exact same town, both sat next to each other. You've got restaurant A and you've got restaurant B. Now, in month 2, the owner of restaurant B says, do you know what? I think we're going to do a little bit of work outside. So you can see in a month, those trees have grown very quickly. Put some lighting up between them as well. They've put a little bit of fencing up there. Restaurant B now has an advantage over restaurant A. It means that they have something better that they can offer to people. So if you're on the chat now, if you're on there, I can see some questions coming through, which we'll get to in a second. But if you're on the chat, which one of those restaurants are you more likely to go to? Restaurant A on the left-hand side or restaurant B on the right-hand side? Now, in month 3, restaurant B has another absolute brainwave. The owner of the restaurant says, do you know what? Why don't we offer free parking? We've got a car park. We'll offer free parking and we'll put a hostess outside to bring people in off the street and into our restaurant. Which restaurant, again, if you're walking past there, are you going to go for? Month 4, I think we're on month 4 now, month 3 or month 4. I've lost which month we're on now. But the next month, we'll say that. And the next month, restaurant B decides, why don't we put a roof terrace upstairs? We'll invest our profits from the first month back into having a roof terrace up there. Now, as you can see here, you've got 2 started off very, very similar restaurants. And this comes down a little bit to product building. We can see a few people commenting there, Facebook, YouTube, B. Yeah, I'd be exactly the same. If I was walking down that street, I'd probably go for B. Now, what happens in the next month? Again, lost what month we're on here, but the next month, restaurant A owner decides, do you know what? I think we need to do something about this. There are already 3 different things behind. They haven't got the hostess outside, they haven't got the roof terrace, and they haven't got the nice outdoor area so they can be appealing to different markets. So restaurant A does what most business owners do in this situation. And they stick a sign on the front of the door going, we need to lower our prices. If our prices are lower than restaurant B, more people are going to come to us and going to start working with us and come into our restaurant. This can be true. In certain markets, it is good to give a discount. You'll see at the moment, Black Friday, everyone's throwing discounts everywhere. But again, if you were walking down that street, it probably depend on what you were planning to do with your day there, but would you rather go to restaurant A or restaurant B? Now, I can say if I was with my fiance and me and Annabelle said that we were going to go out for some food and we walked past those 2 restaurants, pretty much guarantee we're going to be ended up in restaurant B on that roof terrace at the top there, listening to the nice man playing his guitar. It's going to be a nice evening. Now, again, this is what a lot of business owners do. If you reduce your revenue amounts, you are immediately going to be reducing your profits on there. So have a think about in your business at the moment, as you're going through this month and next month, what is your competitive advantage? What have you got as an advantage that you can be kicking out to the sector that is different from everybody else? If you haven't got many of these things, and most companies do, they just need to spend a little bit of time working on those things. But most companies will have these already. If you don't have them, start to think about what you can do. What additional value can you add to clients just by getting them walking through the door? Now, this is going to form the basis of what we're going to talk about for your campaign, because again, as Kaylin was talking about copy before, you want to be talking in your copy or in your campaign that's going out to people about what you've got that other people don't have. It will make things so easier. So many campaigns go out to people that quite literally just say, hi, we are such a body, we do X, Y, and Z. Which X, Y, and Z is normally exactly the same as any other companies in the sector. Tech businesses are very, very good at this. They're always looking at new things that they can do to be adding that competitive advantage. Now, Andy, I'm just going to come to you on this if this is all right. I mean, what are some things that people can do to provide that competitive advantage and get that message out of what they're doing differently?
I think, and this kind of relates to one of the conversations we've had this week, where if we're speaking to clients, we get them to put their mindset in and through the client, and what first engaged them to the business, what solutions was the client having solved. So, for example, if it's a factory manager that was going to use a new software piece, well, what are the problems? So then by listing out, and it's a bit of a paper-based exercise, but it's really, really good to do, is like list out those issues that are going to get resolved and how they're going to resolve them. By conjoining those two elements together, move that into that campaign, and you're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Combine that with call to actions, guys, and go out at a steady pace with it. We are going to talk a little bit more about this in a second, but make sure that you have something that you can go out to the sector that is a competitive advantage. It is something that is different from what other organizations are doing. This will massively help you when you're pulling your campaign together. Don't just put something out there that literally is the same as everything else. Because if you're going after, say, for example, if you're going after someone else's market, if you've got a competitor and you're looking to get some of that market share from them, you're not going to do it by doing everything the same. It's very doubtable they're going to buy from you just because they like you. So, first of all, get your competitive advantage together. This will make things so much easier when it comes to generating leads and generating inquiries. Now, number two, Kaylin, Danny, I'm going to come to both of you guys on this because I know you spend a lot of your time and a lot of your efforts working with clients. Guys, if anyone is listening to this as well and they want any information, there's some questions that are coming up. I will jump to those as well in a second, so thank you for putting those on. But if you are just tuning in now, what is the biggest thing you struggle with when it comes to picking your target audience and knowing what clients to go after? Because again, this is one of the most important parts of campaigns. If you're targeting your message towards the wrong people, you're not going to get the ROI. So Kaylin, Danny, I'm going to come to you guys on this. Kaylin, I'll come to you first if that's okay. But when it comes to target audience, what's something reasonably easy that people can do to decide who am I going to be targeting?
Well, it's very simple. What you can initially do is you can just see who they are currently working with. Absolutely. Ask them, who are your current clients? Who are you working with? What kind of people do you enjoy working with? Because you can ask who they're targeting, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is going to be their clients. So just target who they're currently working with.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is a challenge that we see a lot. And this comes back, Andy, I'm sure you're going to jump in on a second on this from the data side of things. But certain organizations that we work with will go, who's your target audience? And they will come back to us with pretty much exactly what is written on that sheet there, with exactly all the answers to it. And we'll go, well, how do you know? And they'll go, data. So Andy, go on, give us a bit more on the data side of things.
Again, it all goes back to utilizing the data that you've got within the business. There's so much that you have available to you. A lot of businesses don't recognize the power of their own business data. For any customer, you've probably got two different types of customers straight away, because you've got the people who are the decision makers who can say yes or no to spending on the budget. And then you've got your influencers within that business as well. And those influencers might not be able to say yes or no to the budget, but they'll be feeding into the decision maker saying, I've seen this. It looks absolutely awesome. It's going to make my life so much easier, and it's going to generate us more money, more revenue, more leads, whatever the solution is. And you can get that information by simply as Kaylin said, and just reiterating those, like, who are your clients? But taking that a little step further, who was the first person who got in touch? Who was the first person to make that inquiry to the business? And then who was the person who said yes or no? Who's that key account role? So therefore, you've got straight away decision makers and your influencers, job titles, industries, job roles, seniority in roles, time in business. All of that information can then be gleaned from those two simple elements there, and then you've got your some key audiences straight away. I believe we've lost Jonathan for a moment or two, so I believe he will be back on with us in a couple of moments. But
yeah,
Danny.
Andy,
Well,
if I can I actually just
yep.
wanted to go back to when you're trying to determine your competitive advantage. A lot of companies, sometimes you sell the same thing as everyone else. Your competitors, you have a very, very simple product, or it's something that just a lot of different people do, but they do it the same way. A way to differentiate yourself. We had a chat with a client not so long ago where we said, what differentiates you from your competitors? And he very simply said, it's our culture. It's who we are. It's how we treat our clients. And if you're able to communicate that through campaigns, through copy, through the way that you meet with your potential clients, that's a great way to differentiate yourself in a very, very simple, not simple, just a market that is filled with different competitors who do the same thing.
Absolutely cracking point.
Am I back? Can you
You're back.
You are back.
Good. I wasn't just going to make a break. Sorry, my camera just decided to turn itself off, which is wonderful. But yeah, brilliant points there, Kaylin. Thank you for filling in that there. And Andy, just jumping onto something that you said there about influencers. When it comes to influencers in a decision-making process, how important are they from a marketing perspective? Because I know we hear a lot, we need to be speaking to decision makers. We only ever work with CEOs. How important is it to also go to influencers as well?
It forms a level of trust between yourselves who's selling a product or service and the end client. Having one person say, yes, this is a great product, we would like to do it, is great. But then having a group around you who recognize the benefits, who recognize the impact that that's going to have is phenomenal. It will also help as well, depending on your product or service that you're offering, it will help with the uptake on the client side as well. I'm not sure whether change can be quite resistant at time, whether it's a new piece of software, whether it's a new process, or whether it's a new product that you want to roll out. The more influencers that you've got on support of that change straight away, the better. They see the benefit. They see how it's going to be more effective, more efficient for all users. Therefore, it gets rolled out quicker. There's less bumps, and then the efficiencies, the effectiveness is recognised straight away.
Absolutely. So, Danny, I'm going to jump to you on this one because we've had a question that has come in, which I will just bring up onto the video. I'm assuming you can see that there. But what is a good basic campaign for a new business? Is it like a big fancy advertising campaign or a simple video message, one slide, one email? Campaign sounds too big for businesses or for a new business or small business. So just to explain on this, guys, when we're talking about a campaign, this doesn't have to be something that is all singing, all dancing. This is something that you are going to plan and you're going to decide that you might do for a month. So I'm going to hand over to Danny on this one because I know, Danny, you set up some what are, in the greatest respect, relatively simple campaigns for clients that are something you can do yourself, but also create some absolutely incredible results. So Danny, give us a bit of advice on that.
Yeah, I think we can do the big crazy campaigns that look like a bit of a headache, but more times than not, the simple ones do get the better results. I think you're looking at something that is, one, automated, because nobody wants to be messaging 200, 300, 400 people a day on LinkedIn. And then I also think that a couple of steps is better than having a big, long system. I think get out a couple of points, try and find who the person that we need to speak to is. And then from there, the conversation is just going to naturally happen. It will drop into your inbox and we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. And we're going to run through in a bit more depth here all of the things that have been sort of asked there and running through, because I know when you start looking at a campaign, when you're a small business owner, a new business, or a salesperson, business development person, when you start thinking about a campaign, you think of like the marketing department at Apple coming up with a huge video that they're going to send out. A campaign can be something just as simple as finding 20 people that you want to target on LinkedIn and messaging them through LinkedIn, asking them, like Caleb was talking about before, some very simple copy. We'd like to speak to you because we think you might have this problem here. We can help you with that and solve it for you, taking out the we's and the I's and the U's there. But you get the idea. It might just be as simple as that, as going out and asking people, would they like to have a meeting? That can be a campaign, finding 20 people on LinkedIn or finding 20 people's email addresses that you want to go out to, and then pushing that campaign out to them as well there. Quick question there from Matt. How many touch points do you recommend for a campaign? And in what do you think is a good frequency? Once a week, twice a week? Kaylin, I'm going to come to you on this because I know you are the queen of campaign steps and setups.
Well, it really depends on what you're comfortable with. But in terms of rule of thumb, when it comes to LinkedIn, would be, I would say, in terms of messages, just 2 or 3 maximum. People get very irritated on LinkedIn if you bother them too much. But in terms of actions that you can take on LinkedIn to get some attention, you can view profiles, you can endorse a skill, you can like a post that they've done. There can be up to 5 to 8 touch points, as long as they're not all direct messages. This will get people will get a notification that you viewed their profile. They'll see that you've liked a post, that you've endorsed a skill. This is something that they'll be interested in, and they might then feel the need to reply to you. Your message should do that for you, but if it doesn't, a little nudge with the less direct touch points is really good.
And again, we're going to talk about this in a little bit more depth later, but one of the biggest, I think, challenges that we see that people have with campaigns is they will send a message out to someone, whether it's on email, whether it's a cold call, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's through a different method. They'll ask once. Always ask twice, always ask 3 times. Just because somebody doesn't get back to your first message, it does not mean that they are not interested. It might mean that they are busy with other things and your message isn't top of their priority list. Now, we run some campaigns sometimes after hours for clients. We know that a lot of people use LinkedIn in the evenings. Me, for myself, I put my son in bed, I sit downstairs, I have a scroll through LinkedIn, what's going on. If you want to get a message back from me on LinkedIn, you're best going for me about 7 o'clock in the evening, because you'll get me there. I'll read it and I'll go, yeah, that sounds great, or no, but you'll probably get a response. But what I would definitely say here is never just ask once. We're going to talk about this in a second, but never just ask once. You always want to be asking more than once. We often find with campaigns and with cadences that we pull together, it might be the 3rd or 4th attempt. Now that leads us very well on to General rule of 5 states that a prospect needs to hear an advertiser's message at least 5 times before they will inquire about that product or that service. Now, this can give us a really big advantage. But Andy, just give us a bit more on the rule of 5. Why is this so important when it comes to lead gen, and why, when we're thinking of doing a campaign, should we not just be doing that first step?
There's so many messages that we receive on a daily basis. There's a lot of data out there behind this, and it was it something like 16,000 individual messages that the brain receives on a daily basis. I don't act on all of them. Yeah, I don't even recognize that I receive 99% of them. If I receive something into my inbox once, it might garner my attention for about 4 or 5 seconds, but then I forget about it because a bird will fly past this window, or I'm receiving the next data set or something, and I'm all eyes into that. It goes back to that first key point that you said. It's consistency. Yeah. So I might not have the time to really dig into that first message. The second message might be a prompt. The third message, I'm like, okay, you've now caught me with 5 minutes. The fourth message, like, right, okay, I didn't really look into it enough before I'm going now. And that's kind of reflective in a lot of the inquiries that we've been generating. And again, digging into the data on the amount of responses we receive through our email cadences, we found that the vast majority of our inquiries are actually generated in between email 3 and email 5. So that's bang on for that touch point of the rule of 5, which is why, going back, don't ask once, ask them twice, give them a break, ask them one final time, but in a way that doesn't pester. It's not a case of bang, 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 bang. There's got to be breaks and pauses in between, because let's face it, not everybody that you reach out is going to be interested in what you are saying at that point in time.
We use a phrase at Big Presence whenever we're pulling together a campaign. It's about nudging clients, not pushing them. We don't push people into having a meeting. What we do is we nudge them along that process. And again, we're going to show you exactly how to build a campaign like this and the different steps that you can take in it. But this gives us a huge advantage as an organization, because we can pull together what is called a multi-channeled approach. So me, for example, if you think about where I spend my time, spend a lot of time on email, spend quite a bit of time on LinkedIn as well. You might catch me on the phone, probably a little bit of Facebook scrolling. I don't like to say it, but I scroll Facebook every blue moon in the evenings. So if you want to get in contact with me, you've got 4 different ways that you can get your message in front of me. On the telephone, give me a call. You could go through email, you could go through LinkedIn, or if there's a Facebook advert or something on there as well, I'd probably see that. So what we're saying here, the big advantage that we've got is knowing that all of those touch points don't have to be through the same medium. Now, we do often, for a campaign, we might use email for the whole campaign, but if we can, we multi-channel it as well, so that we're also getting in contact with people through LinkedIn, we're also getting in contact with them through Facebook, or we're getting in contact with them through email as well. So different touch points within there through different systems. You're going to have different people who spend more time on different platforms. That's not a bad thing for us. It's understanding that, though, and knowing that we want to be making sure that they're seeing us in some way, shape, or form on all of those platforms is going to make it a lot easier from a lead generation perspective. Now, I'm going to hand over to Andy in a second to run through a little bit more of this, because this is Andy's absolutely, it's actually all of the team's speciality here. But we're going to give you an example here of a real campaign that has produced and followed in the first month. This was the very first month. We launched it at on the first day of the month, and it ran throughout the month. It got 12 leads, 7 opportunities, 4 meetings, and 3 new clients in for the organization that we're working with. So some very, very good stats there, but we're going to show you exactly what you need to do to build something that will be the exact same. So Andy, these were the steps that we did to start with. I mean, there might be some words on there that people aren't very familiar with. Do you just want to talk through step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and just explain to anybody who's jumping on this what each of those steps means?
Absolutely. A large part of what we do is front-ended. A lot of the work that we do, it's like the tip, it's like the iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg in the campaign delivery. A lot of our work is done pre-planning. So we will have done a lot of work around the target audience, who they are, where they are, what sort of messaging they're engaging with, what sort of call to actions that is prompting them to come on board with us, also to engage with that particular campaign. Once we've got that information together, we'd have also worked out as what that value proposition actually looks like for the client, what the needs, what the wants, what the problems, what the solutions. And we'll have designed then a piece of content which we would hide behind a data wall. I say hide behind a data wall. It's the exchange of contact details to receive the content. And we've designed a landing page in which to house that information and house that content piece. The messaging then would be about driving the traffic or nudging people to that particular landing page, and they will then convert onto the. They will then convert, download the content, fantastic. But whilst at the same time, we would then be creating the engaging content on LinkedIn as well. So messaging through multiple sources, personal profiles, company profiles. Again, it's about outreach to your prospective audience, and then it's not just a single touch point, it's multi-touch points. We can also create as well, and what we did as well, we created a video around this particular content piece, which was outside of that campaign. And you can use something as simple as Loom to create a 30-second explainer, and it follows up it follows up great in terms of these types of campaigns, because again, it adds that personal touch. You're no longer a brand, you're actually a person who's reaching out to them. But most importantly, that content that we created, it's got to be useful to the end user as well. If it's something that they can take away, they can use, brilliant. If it's something that is a demo that they can engage with straight away, again, the more you begin to allow your audience to start using and getting hands-on experience with your products, your service, your brands, your business, the more likely they are to ultimately convert for that meeting, that inquiry, or even if it's just that form submission as well.
Absolutely. And for anybody who's watching this at the moment, we're going to show you some of the systems at the end that you can design these things on. Some of it will automate it. If it's an email, it'll automatically send it out for you and send certain parts of it, or you can review it and put something personalized in there. But it will give you a level of steps that you can do. If anyone hasn't got a system like this at the moment, we're going to show you some at the end, so you could utilize one of the systems. If not, just build a spreadsheet. Really simply, if you're thinking of doing this and you need to organize it in some way, build a spreadsheet. Even better, if you've got a CRM, you could put some of these steps into there as well and build it out through that. But we'll show you some of the systems at the end and give you some ideas. If you do want to go and do a bit of playing yourself and try and find out how you can do this, we'll give you access to some of the systems and show you through those. So, Danny, I am going to come to you on the next one. So first step is to design your sequence and think of your different steps that you're going to do in there. But step 2 is deciding the duration. So Danny, when you're pulling together a campaign or a cadence for a client, how do you decide what you're going to do for the durations?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting one, actually. The answer sometimes is we have to just speak to the client, and obviously we will bounce ideas off the client. We'll sit many meetings. We'll have a conversation before the campaign even goes live, whether that's in copy and the sign off, the amount of steps, the touch points. So at every point along the step of the building of the campaign, we're having a conversation. Now, once that's live, we then monitor it. The data tells us where the good points are of the campaign, where it's not working, where we're getting higher responses, where people maybe aren't responding. So, and then we just tweak the campaigns and we alter it based off of the data. So without saying we don't know, the data has to tell us.
Absolutely. And we're very lucky because as an organization, I mean, we send out thousands and thousands and thousands of campaigns on a weekly basis to our clients, so their prospects. So we have a very good general idea from what we've done before, what will work. But as Danny explained there, different markets and different industries, different products work very differently. If you're selling widgets and it's a very cheap and very quick product to get out and it's £5-10, something like that, you might only need one campaign. People will click straight through and buy it straight away. If you're selling a consultancy package to somebody that is going to be, you know, your average sales cycle might be 6 months to start with, you're going to have to do a lot of engaging with that client. We might have to put those steps apart because that client might not have necessarily that issue right here, right now, but it doesn't mean that they won't have next month or the month after. So sometimes when we run a campaign, it might be a 2 or 3 month campaign that clients are going through and the process that they're going through before we get that response rate. But it very much depends organization to organization. As Danny said, different industries work differently. So we've got a lot of experience on that side of thing, but ultimately, I suppose, as Danny was saying there, we are starting off from a standing start and going, this is what we think is the best thing to do, as you guys will be when you're designing your own campaign. So next step, split testing your campaign. Kaylin, talk to us a little bit about split testing. What is split testing and why is it so important when we're pulling a campaign together?
So when we pull campaigns together, while I might do the copy, for example, I'll work with Danny on the same campaign. There's always a review process where we'll look at the copy and we'll go through it. We'll come up with different subject lines because we think that this might work better. In some emails, we'll include a call to action that's perhaps an image, or perhaps we'll put in something that is downloadable content. This is in both email one. So now for an A and B test, we're going to split test. Danny might think that downloadable content is a better idea, whereas I think that just offering a meeting is a better idea. You put this into a campaign, you can split test this. If you've got a pool of 100 potential leads, you can send that out to 50 people, 50-50. And then depending on how that performs, click-through rates, read rates, response rates, you can decide which test between the A and B does better. By doing this, you are able to come up with a whole bunch of different ideas. Test subject lines, test your call to action, test your lead magnets, and figure out what works best for you, and then you can use it again next time.
100%. And then what we do from our side is we would double down data on the campaign that had worked best. But again, I can see Andy nodding ahead here. The data drives the decisions that you should make from a lead generation perspective. If you haven't got that data, you haven't got that information, you're not going to be able to see what's going to work for you next month. You're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, probably wasting money on prospects that could have bought from you, but you weren't using the right campaign, the right messaging, the right sequence. And split tests as well, guys, you can do in different segments. You might have one that lasts 3 weeks as a campaign. You might have one that's a week. Whenever we set up campaigns, 2 of the campaign managers will jump onto those. Both will create a campaign. And from that, we'll have a bit of a competition internally about who wins. And there's always a bit of banter flying around on that. But it's a really good way to test that. Now, just to jump on, again, these examples that we've got here have got 5 steps, but we sometimes have campaigns that have 8, 9, 10 steps. We sometimes have campaigns that have 2 or 3 steps. So, you know, this will depend on what you're doing. If anyone's struggling on this, again, you've got everybody who's on here at the moment. If you've got a question now, drop it onto the comments. We'll try and jump to it as quickly as we can. Anything in regards to lead generation, we'll try and handle for you today. Or if it's something that you want to speak to one of the account managers, myself or Andy with afterwards, just drop them a message through on LinkedIn. You should be able to find all of our LinkedIn profiles on the bios. Now, there's one major thing wrong with this campaign and why it's going to provide about 50% less of the results than it could do if we did one extra thing on it. Now, if you're on LinkedIn at the moment, if you're up on YouTube, Facebook, just comment on there. What do you think is the one thing that you can see on that campaign that would mean you get 50%, half the amount of leads and inquiries that we could get out of that if we just did one extra thing. I will give you a little hint. This is something that we have just been talking about on there. You've got step one, send your lead magnet. Great way to start a campaign. Second, invite them to join the company LinkedIn. Another way to do it. Send them a LinkedIn video around the topic. Send them something useful, and then call to action. So I can see a few people coming through on YouTube and on Facebook there saying we could have another step in there. Yes, we could also change the amount of time that we've got between. Yes, absolutely right on that. The one that I'm going to go with, though, which I'm hoping people are going to drop onto LinkedIn as well, is that we've only got one single call to action. Matt coming up with checking email deliverability there, 100% checking deliverability. We're not going to talk about domain warming today, but if you're going to do email campaigns, you need to be warming your domains up. Absolutely making sure that we're actually going to get into people's inboxes. The step that he's missed out on there is the additional call to action. We talked about this before, but if you're only asking people once for the business, you are going to get, again, 50% less results than you would do, probably less than 50%, I'd say, than you would do if you asked twice. Now, it doesn't mean the call to action always has to be at the end. You might have a call to action in the middle, then you might send them something else useful. But that is one of the tips that we can absolutely give you to make sure that you're doing that. So once you've done that, down to the exciting bit. Andy, just a quick one on that. I mean, Matt's mentioned there about checking email deliverability. Just talk about email deliverability a bit. For anybody who doesn't understand this, give a really simple overview as to how email deliverability will massively affect your campaign stats, because I know you love this area.
I love this area and I hate this area at the same time, because email deliverability is probably the single most important thing that we need to take into account when we're looking at an email campaign, because we can have the most kick-ass cadence and campaign and automations that sit on the back of it. Kaylin's created like an awesome landing page and the content is absolutely, but if our original emails only land in junk mail, nobody's going to see it, nobody's going to click through to it, and therefore the rest of the campaign falls flat. So email deliverability is about how safe is your domain in terms of when it contacts another domain to send an email through to it. The domains talk to each other and they say, are you from a reputable source? Yes, I am. Excellent. Come and take a seat in the inbox. If that doesn't happen, then you're going to end up in the other folder, or the promotions folder, which is not great, but it's not terrible. Worst case scenario is you land in junk, which is like page 2 of Google. No one's going to see you.
Someone gave me a very, very good explanation of this really simply, but imagine if you were doing mail drops and you're going around to people's houses and you go around 100 people's houses, making sure that your email deliverability is correct is like making sure that they don't have a shredder immediately at the other side of their door, that as you put your pamphlet in, it immediately shreds it. It's exactly the same on email. We do a huge amount on email, guys, so if anyone needs any help with this, give us a shout. But on the email side of things, the first thing we want to do is make sure that it's landing on their doormat on the other side of the door, ready for them to pick up next time they log onto their inbox, rather than going straight into that shredder. We often find clients go, we won't have a problem with our domain deliverability. We've got a very good system that we use that warms domains and also gives you a score, sends out emails consistently from yours to other domains that they own, and it will tell you how many of those are landing on your inbox or your spam folder within that. And we often find, to start with, that clients that are doing cold email outreach are only getting around 40% of those emails landing in the inbox. So over a course of a couple of weeks, we can increase that deliverability for them and get that to around 95%, so that 95% of the emails that we send will end up in inboxes. And I will show you at the end some of the statistics that we've got from some of the campaigns that we've run. So, Kaylin, I'm going to just jump over to you on this one, because we talked a little bit here around the brand building side. We talked about this earlier around brand building or more direct lead generation. Why is it important to have both of those within a campaign? I mean, shouldn't we just be going out and going, do you want to work with us? Do you want a meeting?
So if people don't know about your brand, they're not going to want to work with it. So a lot of clients actually come to us and they'll say, listen, we want to do lead generation. They don't even know their own brand identity. So you'll say to them, well, who are you? What do you do? They can barely answer that question. They can tell you what they sell, but they can't tell you what they do. Building your brand, making sure that, so if we are going to send out a campaign for you, we need to know who you are, your color scheme, your culture. How do you talk to people? Your tone. If you don't know your own brand, there's no way that a person doing lead gen, or even yourself, if you're a smaller company and you're doing lead gen yourself, there's no way that you can communicate that to people. So identifying who you are as a company as a company, that's the only way that you can actually communicate that. So you need to build your brand first before you start to do lead gen.
Absolutely. And a big part of this as well comes down to, if you're going to take a meeting with someone, you're going to want to start with know a little bit about them, know a bit about their reputation. We've all had it on LinkedIn. Somebody sends you an invite, you immediately click accept invite, and the next thing you know, message in your inbox, hi, my name's such a body. I do this, we do this is what we can do for you. We've done X, Y, and Z. These are our bullet points of our products that we sell. Can I book in a meeting with you? Straight away, gets deleted. I do all the time. Bang. Get rid of the connection request on there. If you're going to get in contact with someone, it's really useful to send something useful to them to start with, that they go, that was a really useful piece of information. As I'm going to put here, guys, the lead generation calculator that I talked about before, we give that away completely free, but it is a way of building our brand, showing you a little bit about what we do with organizations. It doesn't mean you have to get in contact with us and work with us. It's something completely free that we're going to give out to you guys. There's a link for it on the chat. Andy, if you could just drop that in again for us. But if you want to generate more leads and inquiries, start with a lead gen calculator. But that is, again, a way of building our brand. So,
Jonathan, one extra thing I would say is that also, if you're a company that's going out to people, your website doesn't have to be the best, but at the very least, set up your LinkedIn, set up your Facebook, set up your social media so that people can actually look for who you are. Because the moment I get a lead gen email or like a cold email, the first thing I'll do is that I will go and look for either their websites, but I'll usually look on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to find information on companies. So if you can set your company up on LinkedIn, it's very easy to do. You don't even need that much help. We can help, but you can do it yourself. It's important to do just the small things.
100%. Really good tip. I'm exactly the same on that. Someone reaches out to me, first thing I do is go and find them on LinkedIn. I hardly ever go onto their website. I think things have changed in that respect. We're more looking to have a scroll down the feed and see content. Absolutely, a big part of the personality. So why does that approach generate results and deliver results for our clients? Reason, first of all, it doesn't leave things on the table for a competitor to grab, because we start with, we've got that question at the end. Do you want to have a conversation? Do you want to have a meeting? Never send out a campaign without a call to action or a way with someone to get in contact with you. It does a mixture of automation and personalization. And I'm going to jump in a second on some of the systems that you can use to build these things up. But part of this will be automated. If there's an email that's going out, doesn't mean you have to sit there and personalize every single email. Might mean that you personalize the LinkedIn request when it's going. You're obviously going to have to personalize the video that goes out. But it means that only parts of this process are automated and only parts of it are personalized. Save you loads of time, this, guys. It's very scalable. If you can find a way of making this work and you can get that campaign by split testing it to see which one works, it's very, very scalable. All you then need to do is find more prospects to put into it. When you put more prospects in, you get more results. How? I'll show you some of the stats in a second from some of our campaigns that we do, but we know that by a certain amount of prospects that we put in at one end, we'll get a certain amount of deals and clients that will come out of the other end. And we just play the numbers. It's very simple at that point. Finally, there are infinite ways to do it. I think that's pretty much the same as the other one, but there are infinite ways of you to scale this. There's lots of other ways, steps and things that you can add in as well. Don't just use the ones that we have here. So jumping over to some of the systems that you can use for this. Danny, I know, again, this is a speciality. Which is your favorite out of all these systems, if anyone was going to jump on and try and do this themselves?
Ooh, I like Lemlist out of the ones that are on the screen. I think the user interface is really easy. You can set up a campaign within half an hour the first time using it. It's quick, it's probably cost effective, and there's loads of personalization that you can do on there as well, which is obviously the key. 100%.
Lemlist, I think I would also go with my favorite. We do also use the different systems that we've got on the screen there for different clients. Some we need to do more with. We also do use some other platforms as well if we're doing much larger campaigns. Lemlist, Clenty, Outreach, SalesLoft are all designed to be doing more of a personalized approach, but it will help you set up those functions. And finally, how will you know if your campaigns are working? Now, again, we're going back to the data side of things here, but these are actual statistics that we sent from a campaign for ourselves. So we do all of the methods that we use for clients, we also use as our lead generation methods. We're not doing something else than we're offering to clients. The bulk of our new contracts and clients come in either through LinkedIn or they come in through email. They are by far the most cost-effective way of finding new people in the market, getting them to know a little bit about what we do, and then booking meetings in. So you can see on this one that we did here, 978 contacts were loaded up into that. We got a 53% open rate. Over 50% of the people that we sent emails to or LinkedIn requests to opened those emails. That's phenomenal. If anyone's in the marketing side, you'll know that normally you're looking at anything between sort of 10, 15, 20% max when it comes to cold emails. We get much better responses from that. 9% clicks on there. We also include some links in there so people can jump onto a landing page or see a video. 5% response rates on there. And then finally, the all-important number, out the back of that, we got 7 interested people that wanted to speak to us about lead generation. So for every 1,000 that we put in, we got 7 meetings out the back of that. All we need to do there is have a look at our conversion rates, how good we are at selling ourselves to that client, and then that gives us the number. So incredibly scalable for you guys to go out on. So guys, we are going to be wrapping up in any second now. Very finally, I know I mentioned it before, but if you're going to start doing lead generation, work out how many leads you need to start with. That is exactly what the lead gen calculator is for. It is for helping you guys work out, this is my revenue target next year. This is how much revenue I did last year. This is how my conversion rate, and that will spit out the other side of it, how many leads you need to generate per month to hit that sales target based on the numbers that you're going to put into there. It takes you less than 20 seconds to fill out. So guys, thank you very much for joining me today on this. I'm just going to jump back on to a quick screen share. Danny, what is your biggest tip for anybody off the top of your head that is looking to generate more leads and generate more inquiries? What's the top tip you can give anyone who's listening?
I would just simply go with consistency. I think keep knocking on that door, keep sending emails, keep yourself relevant, and just have conversations. So I think in one word, it would just be consistency. Just keep at it. Don't get disheartened.
Love that, Danny. Big thank you for joining us today, Danny. Really appreciate your time. Kaylin, same over to you.
I would say be unapologetic in your lead generation. There's no need to apologize for doing lead generation. Connect with people on LinkedIn, send out emails. Don't start your emails with, sorry to bother. Don't do that. Just be confident in what you're going to offer people, offer them a solution, and just be unapologetic. Don't get nervous when people say to you, this is LinkedIn, don't sell to me. That's what LinkedIn is there for. It's for connections, it's for networking, it's for selling. Don't let people get in your head with your lead generation.
Beautiful. Big thank you for joining us today, Kaylin. Huge thank you. I'll catch you later. And the almighty Mr. Andrew Coles.
Oh, you know what I'm going to say here.
I know what you're going to say.
It's all about the data. It doesn't matter if you're a sole trader and you're working from Outlook and an Excel document, or you're turning over five to 10 million pounds a year and you've got 50 staff and you've got multiple CRMs. You've got so much data flowing through the business. And if you take a step back from doing the day-to-day actions for half an hour, and actually look at what that data is telling you in terms of who you are, who you're targeting, who your influencers are, who your decision makers are, and just spend 10 minutes how you can use that information in a small lead generation campaign. You only need to be 2-step cadence. Utilize what Danny said, a very simple LinkedIn campaign to begin with, but you will see an immediate impact because the data is on point because it's your data.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Andy.
No worries. Thank you.
So guys, that is all from us today at Big Presence. I'm going to finish off with my final tip. If you're looking to do lead generation, it ties in with pretty much what everybody else has said, but get started. If you're going to grow your business, the recession probably is coming. We don't pay too much attention to that stuff, to be honest, but it probably is going to come. Things are going to get a little bit tighter. The companies, the small businesses that are going to get ahead are the ones who are consistently onboarding new clients. Don't get worried if people say no. You're going to have to go through a certain amount of people that are going to say no before you find that one that is going to say yes. But keep at it. Keep going. If you've got any questions at all, get in contact with myself, get in contact with Andy, get in contact with Kaylin, get in contact with Danny or anyone else in the Big Presence team. But that is everything from us today. Have a cracking rest of the week and a big thank you for tuning in. So lead generation isn't that difficult, but a lot of people get it wrong. There's 3 easy ways of business that you can get more revenue in your pipeline really easily. If you want to be seen by your target audience, you have to be noisy. You've got to be noisier than your competitor. There's no point being the best company in the world if nobody knows about you.